Kia ora Summoners, welcome to the New Zealand qualifier for the Oceanic Collegiate Championship. After today, the top 3 teams from this tournament are going to be moving on to stage 3, where they will be facing off against the best teams from all the states of Australia, representing our lovely country of New Zealand. And of course, they'll also be fighting for the top 2 spot, which will then get them flights to play at the Riot office.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, my name's Kibbles and I will be your play-by-play caster for today. Smite is having a couple of technical issues, but we are into Champion Select, I believe. Otago University versus, Imperium versus VGN.GIGA. So a couple of bands coming out. We've got Pantheon as the first band from the blue side, which is of course Imperium, and Hecarim as the first band from VGN.GIGA. VGN.GIGA. Alistair band as well. Shyvana, another good band there. And hopefully very shortly we should be joined by Smite. And he looks like he's coming back. Still waiting on our third band from Imperium. And it comes out as Gragas. Very specific band there. And just waiting on our last band, which turns into a Sejuani. Smite, are you there? No problems. Still a couple of technical issues, that's alright. So, obviously, this is New Zealand teams, one being Imperium. They are representing Otago University, and VGN.GIGA on the purple team, or red team rather. They are representing University of Auckland. Now, University of Auckland actually have 2 seeds in this bracket, one being the University of Auckland Hawks, and the other, of course, being VGN.GIGA. Still waiting on our first pick from Pac-Man, who is actually a sub for Otago. He is playing instead of Castro, I believe, and the first pick coming out is, in fact, Morgana, a really, really strong support. From what I'm aware. And of course, the first pick being only one champion, the second pick in the champion select will see 2 champions being chosen out of a total pool of, I see, perhaps 60 champions, perhaps a few more. Morgana goes really well in the mid lane too, so I wonder if she has kept hold of that ignite, so I wonder if she's actually going to go as a mid laner. If she does go in mid what seems to be a LeBlanc, then that will spell trouble for Morgana. She can only really spell shield a little bit of LeBlanc's insane burst, but of course Nautilus being locked in as the purple team's jungler. And Aurelia being picked for the top lane, I believe. Strong top lane pick. Haven't seen it myself for quite a while, but a reasonably strong pick. Does, of course, health damage and percent health damage, and also can stun. So, first 2 picks coming out from University of Auckland are Aurelia and Nautilus. Perhaps going for a very strong CC composition there. I guess we'll have to wait till later to find out in the champion select. Still waiting on my friend Smite to come back. We see Lucian and Ziggs. Lucian, Ziggs, and Zac being picked up here. But Ziggs just being hovered over for now. Zac, of course, a very strong jungler, has extremely high sustain in the jungle. And Lucian, a decent AD carry, I'd say. one of the strongest. You've got Draven being hovered over, and also LeBlanc for University of Auckland. I do apologise for our technical issues. It is unfortunate, but these things do happen. Hopefully Smite can join us very shortly. But I will be, in fact, your play-by-play caster. So I'll be the dude telling you the what, and Smite should be telling you the why. Hopefully he can get back in before the game starts. So LeBlanc being locked in, and of course Graves being locked in as well for Liberty. Interestingly enough, they weren't going for that high CC composition that I was thinking University of Auckland would go for. But it's interesting that they pick up a Graves versus Lucian. If you do need a bit more higher mobility if you're facing a Lucian, only because obviously Lucian has high mobility with his dash that he has. So it's a strong pick having Graves. Of course, with Graves' passive, he gets armor the longer he stays in combat. Lucian renowned for being a strong duelist just because of his DPS, and Graves can kind of counteract that with his passive, which is quite strong. We appear to have an Orianna being locked in. I would imagine that Orianna will be in the mid lane, and Morgana will in fact be the support. So we're waiting on the support pick for University of Auckland now.
Alright, hello.
Hey, there we go.
Okay,
Smite, you're back.
apologies guys, I have no idea. During my intro when I got cut out, hopefully you heard at least some of it, but I'll give it a quick TLDR. New Zealand qualifier, top 3 teams move on onto the state championship in the next stage in a few weeks' time, where I guess New Zealand's represented as a state. But obviously we're very much through this champion select, and obviously you've been giving a pretty good analysis so far. But obviously we've got the Otago team, Imperium, going up against VGN.GIGA from the University of Auckland. VGN, though, were the second place seed. However, University of Auckland, one of the more prestigious League of Legends clubs in New Zealand university scene right now. So this is going to be almost a match of the Titans right here in the very, very first round. So you've talked a little bit about the picks so far, but I'm going to just quickly go over them once again because I didn't get to hear that. Sorry, guys. I'm going to have to apologize for having to drop out there, but I am now back in. So I want to talk a little bit about the Zac pick over there, because obviously to a lot of people watching this, seems a little bit off the meta right there, and it almost is, but it's one of Wong's specialty picks. He picks it up all the time in matches that count. This is definitely going to be one of those. And ever since the Cinderhulk meta came back out, tank junglers are in. So his specialty pick there, it's coming back out. It's not quite a Sejuani or even a Nautilus coming out from Kafka over there, but it does the job for Wongza, and it's one of the champions he feels most comfortable on.
So just quickly, tell me exactly what does Cinderhulk prove or give to a team?
Well, obviously it's been the key that a lot of tank junglers have needed to unlock that late stage game, right? Because tanks are excellent in the late game. Grabbing that Cinderhulk just boosts it up so much more. And in the ever-evolving meta right now, currently so many tanks are just coming out, and you can see that by the lineup right here. If you look over at Imperium, they've got Pac-Man on that Maokai as well. Obviously, Wong's are on Zac. There's a Nautilus in the jungle over there, and it might sound surprising, but this sounds like this is a very tank light game currently in the meta right now. Only 3 tanks. Normally you'd expect maybe like tank supports. Nautilus has been seen down in the support role a lot. So having Cinderhulk available just allows you to bring more tanks into the game, which basically causes the game to have to revolve around much longer extended team fights, where either mobile champions like Lucian, which Bluehawk has picked up, and even Graves on Liberty over there, both very mobile AD carries, going to be able to move in and out of the battlefield very, very well in the extended fights. And same thing with LeBlanc, which we'll talk about as well in a second in that mid lane matchup. Able to move in and out of the fight. So, like I said, expect to see very, very long, extended, drawn-out team fights. Even in teams that look like they may have wombo combos with the Shockwave, the Let's Bounce from Zac, Soul Shackles, it's still going to be a very long team fight.
Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to seeing the Zac ball delivery system. Maokai can play that game very well as well. Don't tell me Smite's gone again. Oh well, Smite's not having a good time today, unfortunately. So we've got about a minute to go before we join the game. But Smite is entirely correct. The ball delivery system from Zac and Oriana and Maokai obviously is going to be really interesting to see. I always love seeing a good ball delivery, and being Pac-Man is challenger, Wongza and Asian are high tiers. I'm imagining they're going to be pretty on point. I can't really see a way that University of Auckland will be able to avoid that, especially if Zac can come out of the jungle. The only real thing that I can see there is having a Janna. Now, the Janna has incredibly strong disengage, which is fantastic. Nautilus, well, I mean, I guess they could all get out of the ball delivery system relatively simply. Graves has a dash, LeBlanc has a dash, Aurelia has a dash to an enemy, so she could potentially initiate upon that ball delivery. But we're just about to head into the game now. And right. Oh dear. This is not a good time for Smite. He's not having very fun with his very much fun rather with his router. Some really nice borders coming out. A few challenges, couple of masters, few diamonds coming out here. Looks really pretty on the loading screen, I'm not going to lie. I was correct though, Morgana is in fact the support, so we'll be seeing Lucian Morgana against a Graves Janna. And that's a bit of a skill matchup, I believe. I can see it going either way. They both are very strong picks, very strong comps down in the bot lane. Of course, top lane Aurelia versus Maokai, it should be. No, I'm probably going to give that to Aurelia early stages, but mid to late stages it'll have to be Maokai. Mid to late stages of the laning phase, that is. So, first in, here we go. 10 seconds into the game, of course. Some major pings erupting from the minimap that we can see. All champions have bought their items and are heading off into the Rift. Well, first match, of course, Imperium, which is Otago University's team, versus VGN.GIGA, representing University of Auckland. They are, of course, seed 2. We can see four champions here headed down into the bot side. From University of Auckland, we've got Graves, Nautilus. Actually, all 5 are heading down here. They are actually spotted by a ward, so they are going to know that. Imperium are going to move up into the red side. We're seeing a lot of early plays here. Lots of ward placements coming out. Vision, of course, is incredibly important in this early stages of the game. If Lucian gets caught out here, it's going to provide some early game gold, but I can see that Imperium are actually going to collapse. They can't see where University of Auckland are, but if they just go around the corner just a little bit, then they'll be able to get to... Janna, don't get caught out. Oh, Janna's caught by a Morgana snare. That's not too exciting because level 1 spells and abilities aren't that great, but we do have a flash being come out from Janna, so that's going to lead into a not so fun lane for Janna. She's going to have to play a bit careful in the lane. Oh, getting hit by the turret, and that will be first blood for Morgana. Interesting, I actually thought she was going the right way. I guess I'm a bit confused there. But that's okay. Graves heading into lane. They could potentially be looking out for a lane swap. Who knows? It's a bit hard to see, but it looks like they actually want to face 80 carry versus 80 carry. Morgana really needs to play this aggressively, knowing that Janna has no flash, and they're doing that quite effectively. They're zoning off Graves. Graves is lapping up a bit of experience, and Graves goes actually in on Lucian, knowing that Lucian doesn't really have much power early game, and Graves has a lot. Lots of damage coming to him from here. In the mid lane, a little bit of here and there, a little bit of pokey fun from both LeBlanc and Oriana, but not too much happening down there. Of course, the lane to watch out for, especially in these early stages, is in fact the bot lane. A nice Morgana snare being missed there. Exhaust being dropped down from Morgana. Somebody's probably going to die here. Lucian being ignited, and that will probably drop him down to Janna unless he has a pot running. Oh, wow. That was incredible. Survived with 10 HP, and Janna being dropped very low. Some nice harass actually coming out from Morgana. And I must say, that was an incredible save.
Oh.
Like, I'm surprised Lucian lived through that. I wouldn't have. And I believe Smite's joining us.
That could be a possibility. Can you hear me quite well here?
Yes, I can hear you quite fine.
Okay, cool. So we are jumping back into the game here. Hopefully, I am praying to every god that I've got right now that I don't disconnect again. Not gonna lie,
You're not having much fun, are you?
No. And, I might sound like I've got a great big smile on my face, but I'm actually interiorly furious. But I can see that my boys from Imperium, down from Otago University, they've got first blood, so it looks like they've got a nice advantage here, which is absolutely wonderful for them. I'll try not to be too biased after that, just, got to get something good out of all this. But let's have a look at how some of these lane matchups have been going. Asian, not doing terribly well in that mid lane, and as I say that, look what's happening.
Oh, the Aurelia is coming in from the side. They are actually going to tower dive, but it's too strong. Wow! Oh my god, the flash coming out from Maokai. That was beautiful twisted advance there.
Yeah, and excellent reactions right from Pac-Man on the top lane. He knew his mid laner was in trouble, able to get down there in time. And the roam from RoboSanta looked great.
Oh, LeBlanc dropping him very low, but of course another beautiful twisted advance. Actually, Norris is joining them for a little bit of a punchy punch right here. I don't think that's not a smart idea. The flash under the turret. No! Oh my gosh. This game is so intense.
Yeah, wow. Just action all across the map. And while there's only been 2 kills so far, that mid lane was quite a lot. Unfortunately, Kaffer throwing a flash out for what was just quite not a kill there. As of course, there was a little bit of shield left from Asian in the mid lane. T-Rex though!
Wow, T-Rex getting jumped upon by Aurelia. Of course, that was a really nice teleport, but nothing really doing that. A perfectly timed flash over the wall there.
Yeah, and, in the end, it's just going to be a 5-minute cooldown for another 5-minute cooldown. T-Rex going to be a little bit more vulnerable with that flash, but the big thing is, of course, once level 6 comes around, that flash isn't going to be available for any kind of surprise ultimates coming out from him to net any double kills down there. But, like I said, now it means both teleports are down, and means anything can really go for the 4v4s down at the Dragonfly. But, wow, this bot lane is action heavy, and we may see a bit of a kill here.
Well, Nautilus is going in on T-Rex here, playing by Morgana. They are probably going to hand that over to Graves, which is a very good way to do it. That was quite polite, actually. If it was me, I would have taken it.
It's quite nice. But there's, the state of the game right now, despite being 1 kill ahead, and, even 200 gold ahead, Imperium, their farming isn't looking terribly great right now. Obviously, you can see Asians a little bit behind in the mid lane, Blue Hawk a little bit behind in the bottom lane, and as a Lucian, you definitely want to get ahead, and he's less than half of the CS. Oh, Shockwave!
Shockwave coming in from Oriana actually in the mid lane, but LeBlanc is just a slippery snake when it comes to being engaged upon, so she of course...
What about Wangza though?
Wangza in the jungle. Whoa, that was close actually from Morgana there. Zac getting ignited by Janna, that was so good. A shield coming out from Oriana, the ignite ticking away. But of course, Zac has his passive.
Yeah, and you've always got to remember that, you've always got to be thinking, is that Cell Division up right now? And even if there were no teammates around, even if Asian wasn't available to throw that ignite out, throw that shield out, sorry, Bark definitely would have been able to finish off the kill. Not in time, because of course Imperium would have shown up to support their jungler, and you know, it happened in the end anyway. So while Imperium seemed to be reacting to the general roaming and movements of VGN right now, they are falling behind slightly in lane. As I said before, you know, the farming is just not going terribly well on, you know, potentially the two carry champions right now, Asian and Bluehawk. However, a lot of history has come from, you know, I was actually mentioning this in Champion Select before I disconnected, sorry, but Pac-Man is actually a sort of new addition to their team right now. Asian, he's probably going to be fine. No, maybe not.
Dive, go for the stun. Tower hits, hitting hard on Aurelia actually, and nothing doing there. Dropped very, very low on both sides actually. Orianna did well there.
Yeah, and it's all about knowing your limits. As you know, Yui could stand in there for long enough, and Flash is almost back up again, so he's gonna be safe once again. Now, hopefully, I can finally tell my story, and no one goes through any kind of roams. But Pac-Man, he's a new addition to the Imperium roster. However, he was in the team that placed second in Otago, who weren't able to attend this tournament. So Imperium managed to pick him up, and there's almost no question that Pac-Man was undoubtedly the top member of Team Standard Strat, the team that he got picked up from. So a lot of teams, especially Imperium, always targeted him in either camping the lane or target banning him completely out. So while I say that Asian and Bluehawk, they're a little bit behind in lane, despite being carries, Pac-Man can bring a lot to the table. On a champion like Maokai, it's a little bit harder compared to champions that he's used to carrying on, such as Shyvana, and even his infamous Poppy. But nonetheless, if a Maokai goes completely untouched in the top lane and there's no stopping him, then he just becomes a complete roadblock to the enemy team. There's not going to be any option of split pushing. It can really frustrate the enemy team in getting to the back line, or if he goes for it, the role of making it all the way to the back line, messing things up back there. So, like I said, you know, it's not the end of the story. If Asian and Bluehawk aren't getting ahead, they're not the only carries on this team by far.
Some interesting movements coming up from LeBlanc and Kaffa, of course, being played by Nautilus. That was sneaky how Wongza gave blue buff to Orianna. They pulled it around the side so that Nautilus couldn't ward it. So it's just an interesting thing to note here. But I'm just curious, what do you think of each team's team compositions? Like, what are each team trying to achieve here with the champions they've picked up?
Well, there's a pretty clear story over on Imperium's side. They want to get the ball in there, and they want to get it in there quickly, get a great shockwave off, and then everything goes from there. They're definitely a team fighting composition, as we see a bit of action in the mid lane. Whereas you look over at VGN, it's not quite the same story. They've got a big disengaged sort of comp. You know, having a Janna on your team basically makes it a disengaged comp anyway, just on her own. But every other champion has some way of getting out. But at the same time, they've got a very decent front line. They can leave Bark way at the back, just to peel for Liberty, and if things go a bit south, then Monsoon's always going to be there. He can jump in, reset the team fight. So both teams have a very decent team fighting composition. However, I'd give the split pushing advantage over to VGN simply because they've got Aurelia. But at this stage of the game, you know, he's going to be split pushing up against Pac-Man, and Maokai is the champion that can absolutely brick wall split pushing opportunities. And with both of them having teleport available, it's basically going to nullify that advantage, and it's going to come down to the team fights, whether VGNs are going to be able to disengage. But Wongza in a bit of trouble.
Oh, Wongza's in trouble. He's in a lot of trouble. Oh, but actually a beautiful disengage from Morgana using that snare, which is actually really well played by her. Lucian is staying in this fight a bit longer. Teleport coming in. Oh, this is turning into a big fight actually. Maokai using his ultimate there. And oh no, Zac goes down, of course, to Aurelia. Some skirmishing going on here. LeBlanc is fighting up to Orianna, but Orianna will get out of that. And a 1-for-0 ending up in that fight in favor of University of Auckland.
Yeah, a bit of a questionable re-engage there by Wongza as well. You could see that he'd already had low health, and when I saw him using the elastic slingshot to get back in there on basically 0 HP, I kind of assumed, oh, maybe his cell division is back up. It wasn't, so it really made me question that re-engage once again. It should have been Imperium just getting out of there. They knew that things had gone a bit wrong. Yes, they had the teleport down, but with all the other movements coming out from VGN, then it basically was going to be a loss at the most. So, well, the shockwave in the mid lane.
Shockwave happening right in the mid lane there. LeBlanc is going to be dropped fairly low, and Orianna surviving on minimalist HP. We're talking in the 20s here, but will survive. This is incredible. I don't think... Oh, Zac going in on LeBlanc, but of course the dash. Nothing doing there. Maokai is coming in from the side. Nautilus could be in a bit of trouble. Here comes the smite, of course, and the twisted advance. LeBlanc rejoining the fight. Nautilus will come down to Zac. I find it interesting that they passed that kill on to Zac, actually.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's going to be a choice of either Pac-Man or Wongza, so both very tanky champions, which not really going to matter. The big thing, though, is that this is going to net them the dragon. There's no teleport available for Robo Santa to come down. Bark, he spotted what's going on, but there's just not going to be any kind of contest. Yeah, you can try and steal, but I think in the end, it's going to be better to go ahead, try and get something else out of it. But there's really nothing else to get for VGN here. So that's a really big pickup by Imperium right there. And you can see there's only about a 500 gold difference right now, but that first dragon can absolutely tell a different story.
Absolutely. Now that dragon has the new buffs that it brings per dragon that you get, that can actually change a game quite quickly. Janna could be caught out here. Unfortunately went in where she probably shouldn't have. Zac is following her quite nicely alongside. LeBlanc can't follow though, and this will probably... Oh, a flash and twisted advance coming in from Maokai. Probably unnecessary, I think, but nonetheless the kill going over to Orianna, which will help her a lot.
Nothing is unnecessary as long as you net the kill. But I want to talk about, Imperium's mindset right here. We saw at the start of the game, hang on though, Asian, he's getting ganked, so is Liberty.
Asian is going in, there comes the shockwave, LeBlanc being dropped very low, oh my gosh, the shield and the ball coming out. Of course Nautilus will pick that up, but wow, that was incredible play. See, if any of these things happened to me, I'd just be straight up dead. There's no question.
Hey, well, I mean, Asian, he was straight up dead anyway. But back to the mindset, and that plays straight into it. VGN are targeting Asian as hard as they can, and it's obvious that that's what's going on. But you can see he's handling it very well, and that's because Imperium, they've noticed it's happening, and they're bringing their own teammates along to kind of counter gank what's happening. You see Kaffa come in a lot. You even saw Bark come for a roam up into mid lane. But of course, they've always had Wongza nearby. Pac-Man's always been on call on the phone for that teleport to come down. So they've really been reacting to it very well. And VGN, they might have to start targeting someone else, because Orianna is a champion that does well enough when she's not ahead. However, Asian is ahead in CS and kills.
Blue, of course, being handed over to Asian, which will help her with the defense. Orianna, as you say, is really strong at defending by herself, even if she is behind.
And you can see once again, VGN moving into that middle lane, but the same story's happening again. Pac-Man and Wongza, they're moving down, they're ready to back up Asian if he gets into trouble. The bottom lane down for Imperium, though, it doesn't look like it's going too well, especially letting a Graves get a bit out of control, but Kaffa in the enemy jungle and in trouble.
Kaffa in trouble, but uses his hook to manage to get away. Unfortunately, Orianna coming in. These teams are working so well together. Wongza, Pac-Man, and Asian sticking together like good musketeers should.
Yeah, and something to note, obviously I know a lot of history about the Imperium team here, is that while all the team members haven't been in the same team for the 2-3 years that Otago have had tournaments, but they've all been in the scene. They've all been around since year one, and that means if they don't at least, know how to work together, they know how each of them plays. So it really shows that they can work well together. They know exactly how the other one plays. VGN.GIGA, though, same time, though, those guys have been around for quite a while. I believe at least Liberty and Kappa have been on the same team for quite a while. Members of the infamous League of Legends bootcamp page, I believe. I think they're both coaches there. But hang on, in the top lane, wow, Bark!
Bark getting dropped down very low. She was actually trying to get in position for a nice ult to push Wongza, I believe, out of the way. Nautilus is actually coming in, Kappa being played there. Wongza using his ultimate, Let's Bounce, to drop the team members. He does, of course, have Cell Division. Pac-Man getting pushed into the turret, so he will be in trouble here. Aurelia is going for the Nautilus, Zac. Pac-Man will get spell shielded here. In the meantime, Asian getting dropped very quickly. Both team members there, actually, Asian and LeBlanc, who is being, of course, played by Snackadactyl. Both team members getting dropped very quickly. RoboSanta coming in on Asian. Asian doesn't have the speed. There we go. RoboSanta, another kill. So, 7 for 5 in favor of Imperium. Where do you think Imperium want to take this game from here?
Imperium, I mean, if they need to do anything, it's occasionally contest the dragon when it comes up, but basically stall out a little bit until the late game, because they've got the two monster tanks, and while Lucian's not one of the better late game AD carries, especially compared to Graves, Blue Hawk's going to be able to move in and out of the fight. He's got the peeling he needs from T-Rex, and if it becomes a big problem, Pac-Man and Wongza, one of the two can move back in, more likely Pac-Man, to move in, deal with RoboSanta, who's very likely going to be diving him later on in those team fights. So if anyone wants to move to late game, it's going to be Imperium. They've got pretty strong tanks, but at the same time, the front line's going to get pretty beefy coming out from VGN2, especially Aurelia, who can get pretty terrifying. And speaking of RoboSanta on that champion, he's picked up the Trinity Force pretty recently, which is going to give him a nice spike. Bark, however, in a lot of trouble.
Oh, Bark is getting honestly pelted by Lucian's ult, but fortunately for her, she popped her shield up, so not a whole lot of damage. They are looking for a pick here, and it's going to turn into a pretty nasty team fight, so we'll keep our eyes open for that.
Okay, so RoboSanta, he's up in the top lane. Of course, teleport is going to be available. This means that Imperium, obviously they're getting ready for the dragon right now. Once it spawns, they need to take it out as soon as they can, basically to force the teleport out of RoboSanta, because you cannot leave an Aurelia in the top lane by himself, getting free farm, let alone pressuring that turret. So they're doing exactly that. The dragon has just spawned. They don't have time to bait anything out. They need to go for it right now, force the teleport out, or just flat out take the dragon. Here's the teleport. Here comes the fight.
Here comes the fight. There's an amazing shockwave from Oriana. Unfortunately, didn't catch too many people unawares. Oriana does get dropped in this fight. Aurelia looking to be targeted down by Maokai, but of course will get stunned. Wongza looking very low here, gets dropped over by LeBlanc. Not much Maokai can do. He'll get dropped here as well. So a 3 for naught in favor of University of Auckland and the Dragon potentially.
Yeah, and catch on to RoboSanta. Nothing's really going to come of that. Imperium basically just need to back off, accept the loss there, as they did not manage to get the dragon. And, I mean, we'll talk about the team fight. As you can see, the shockwave went off, but it was only on Katha. And that's the moment where Imperium, if they had the option to, if they could get out, disengage, then they would have. However, you look at their team comp, it's not the greatest at getting out of there, especially compared to, you know, VGN, who've got great disengage, but also great chasing potential. You've got a LeBlanc, you've got a Graves, you've even got a Nautilus who can catch up to everyone, so they didn't really have the option. So once the team fight went south, you know, the fact that they can't get out, it really is a big disadvantage for Imperium right here. And you can see, you know, the 4,000 gold difference. Things are starting to slip a little bit out of control here.
They really are. Zac is moving in aggressively in red side jungle. Sorry, just to clarify, I hope we're using red and blue, not purple and
yes, we are.
And red. Just to clarify, blue. Oh, a beautiful shockwave actually taking that blue buff. Asian is going to be dropped very low. No, they're going to target Wongza actually. Aurelia's ultimate coming out here and will drop Wongza down. So a nice kill coming over there. 7 for 9 so far in favor of University of Auckland. That was an incredibly aggressive move from Imperium. Are they trying desperate measures?
I don't think so. I think they were just trying to look for the blue buff, perhaps mistimed things, as VGN obviously got back into their own jungle in time to deal with everything. And a shockwave being used, I mean, yes, it picked up the blue buff, but once again, it didn't pick up the key members. It's either got to pick up Robo Santa and a few other members, or at least the back line, catching up Snackadactyl and Liberty, messing them up, but importantly, letting the front line of Imperium get into the enemy team. But the fact is that when you've got a front line that is 100% tank compared to the VGN front line, where they've at least got a bruiser, Aurelia, who's going to be pumping out the damage and getting a lot of work done, you're really relying on your back line to not only take out the front line, get through it, get to the back line, get to Liberty and Snackadactyl, but at the same time, they're the only ones going on the back line, because Wongzer and Pac-Man, while incredibly tanky, they just don't have the damage to catch out Liberty and Snackadactyl if they get there. So they really have to rely on the wombo combos and the damage from their carries to break through the front line of Kaffa and Robo Santa.
We do have a pause coming in from, I can't actually see who paused it. University of Auckland, I believe, have paused it. Let's talk about the massive gold lead from University of Auckland. Now, I know you are biased, and I'm going to play a bit of devil's advocate here, but how do you think Imperium are feeling right now?
Imperium have been on the back foot before. There's no doubt about that. They've come back from leads, goal disadvantages like this before, and like I said, they've got a pretty solid late game, if not in their AD carry, but in their overall team composition, where if they can get a good shockwave, that can override any gold lead at all. If Snackadactyl and Liberty slip up, even for just a second, they trip over into that shockwave radius, then it's going to tell a completely different story. It doesn't matter how ahead you are in gold if your AD carry or your mage just completely die at the start. But like I said, their damage isn't huge on that front line, so they are relying on Bluehawk and even Asian to put themselves in fairly dangerous positions. And while being quite a mobile marksman, it can be very, very dangerous if Robo Santa is able to pick up on that, because, like I said, Lucian's got to get in quite close to get that damage down, and Robo Santa can absolutely pounce on that. So I imagine the choice for Imperium right now is to either get the shockwave, and peel onto Robo Santa, and potentially going to be him alone, or go for those backline carries like LeBlanc and Graves, but that's going to be a lot harder to do, and could end up giving the team fight if it's a shockwave that whiffs, because like we saw before, these guys don't have very good disengage. Once they're in the team fight, that's it. They've got to finish it.
Let's just have a look at these items here. I'm curious as to why Graves has gone for the Zeal, perhaps building into a Phantom Dancer, perhaps. But Lucian is opting for a different path. Why would you think they'd be doing different things?
I think in the end, they'll both be going towards a static shiv each. And in the end, I think it's just what you recall back to base with. If you recall back, you've got 1100 gold, 1200, whatever it is now for a Zeal, you'll pick that up. If you've got 800 gold for the Avarice Blade, you'll pick that up. And I think that's just what's happening in the end, but like I said before, they'll both be going for that static shift just for the added wave clear, because while Oriana Asian's going to provide a lot of wave clear for his team, it's always good to have it on a little bit extra on the AD carry. And at the same time, while there's a fair amount of wave clear on VGN, adding a little bit more in is going to be enough, because both teams have pretty scary looking diving compositions. That's something we haven't really talked about just yet, but it's fairly easy for them to get in there. And apart from that Dark Binding, there's not a huge amount of pick that's going to come out underneath the tower. So they definitely want the minions pushed right up to the tower, but at the same time, if they're on the defending foot, then they need to wave clear the enemy minions so that threat of a tower dive isn't as prevalent. And static shift builds into that mindset, so can absolutely see why they're both going for it. And at the same time, it's a good item for both champions, so why not go for it? And it looks like the pause should be ending pretty soon once Imperium confirm that they are ready.
Just quickly, I'd like to note that with the dragon changes, we are actually getting back into game. With the dragon changes, if one team gets a dragon and then the other team gets a dragon also, kind of defeats the purpose of getting the dragon in the first place, other than the gold. What would you say?
Well, I wouldn't say it defeats the purpose, grabbing the first dragon to even things up is a hell of a lot better than having no dragon and then the enemy team grabbing two. So you're not only getting the buff for yourself, you're denying the progression for the enemy team. And, we've seen a lot in competitive games where that fifth dragon is the win condition for a lot of teams, especially even if they're falling a little bit behind in laning or roaming, as long as they can keep objective control, get the fifth dragon, and not lose while everything else on the map happens, that can absolutely turn things around. And fifth dragon is going to be something that both teams are going to be looking for, just because, especially Imperium, they're lacking a little bit of damage. If they can shred through that front line a little bit faster, then it's going to play into their team fight powers a whole lot better. And not to mention the fact that, they need to deal with Robo Santa jumping onto that backline, and as the game is going to move on, he's going to get tankier and tankier. So denying that any more dragons to them, especially the third one, which is going to gain the movement speed buff, having an even faster Aurelia jumping straight onto either your Orianna or your Lucian is going to be a little bit difficult to deal with, mainly because the main peel that they've got for the backline on Imperium is going to be T-Rex. He's got that Soul Shackles, I guess, but Dark Binding is going to be the one that really holds Robo Santa back. And yes, Pac-Man has the option to fall back, peel for his backline, but that's going to leave Wongza 100% alone in diving into the enemy team, and that's not exactly what you want at this stage.
Do you think we're actually getting a few pauses coming out here? Wongzer is actually disconnected, unfortunately, his mouse issues, I believe. But regardless, what do you think game pauses, especially at this kind of tier of play, does to the mentality of teams? Do you think it's affecting them by now, or not so much?
I don't think right now, because both of these teams know that they're likely some of the stronger teams moving in. So obviously it's a bit unfortunate that they're the ones that have to play out first. But of course this is a double elimination tournament, so one of the teams do lose here, which of course is going to be the case. So he's going to be a loser. They will drop down to the lower bracket, so they will have another shot at it. So while nerves might play a little bit into this, it's obviously not your last life. This specific game right here isn't going to be too nerve-wracking, but it could affect your momentum moving into the next round. You lose this game, you lose a bit of morale, you lose a bit of momentum, and things could start to tilt from there. So while the mentality is not going to affect this match specifically too much, especially considering things are almost even. There's a slight lead. Well, not slight. It's a fair lead to VGN, but things are definitely not over yet for Imperium. It's not going to affect the mentality on this game, because even if you lose, it was likely a fairly close game. So I feel like if there is whichever team does lose isn't going to be affected by the morale loss too much in the lower bracket. And both of these teams have been around for a while, or at least they've played in tournaments a fair amount. So they know that tilting is something that you've got to get under control. So I imagine they've both got that, pretty down pat. So I don't think it's going to affect them too much.
No, I'd like to think it wouldn't. Pauses like this, for me, I've played in a few amateur tournaments myself. When things like this happen, especially for extended periods of time, I mean, we've almost already gone up to 8 minutes pause time already. That would affect me. That's why I ask, do you think these players, at their tier, are affected by this anymore?
Right. Sorry, you're asking about the pauses, and then I went off completely on a different tangent. The pauses, no. Pauses happen, even at the highest level. You see even in the NALCS and stuff, which, people would probably, get really mad at me for calling the highest level. So let's move over onto the Korean then. At the LCK, you see pauses there. There are just hardware issues, and when players are playing from home, you've got internet issues as well as that. So I think everyone understands that pauses are happening. And if it's going to affect anyone's mentality, probably going to be us as casters, because we've got to start talking about other things. But pauses shouldn't affect mentality too much in this game, because, like I said, both of these teams, tournament veterans, they've played in a fair amount of tournaments, and they'll definitely be used to pauses.
It is a relatively close game, this one. I mean, for what's 3.5k between friends, you know. But there are a few objectives that I can see that either team perhaps is pushing towards. Can you talk a bit about that? Smite? Oh lord. Oh no, you've got to. Well, at least he managed to finish his sentence this time.
Oh, sorry, what?
Oh, are you there?
No,
Oh, you're there.
do you know what the funny story was? It was actually my mic muted. Whoops. No, okay, so I had this big spiel about Robo Santa. It's obvious that his split pushing is obviously showing off. You're always seeing the top lanes being pushed into Imperium's towers. So uh, that's showing off right now so far. In terms of objectives for VGN, and it's working. And a lot of the reason for that is because Pac-Man, he's almost been forced to move away from the top lane, help out his team because they are falling behind, and that's caused Pac-Man to start falling behind as well. You could see during laning, Pac-Man was doing quite well. He was ahead in CS, wasn't being camped too much. But now you can see a completely different story, whereas, Robo Santa, he's over 50 CS ahead, he's got more kills, he's got more critical items. So things are overall going basically in favor of VGN, and it's going to be quite hard for Imperium to come back from this, but like I said earlier in the game, a good shockwave can turn everything around.
Some interesting ward placement coming out from both sides of the team. Relatively aggressive from University of Auckland. Good use of the smite buffs that have been added. I personally think it makes the game a bit complicated, but for tiers this high, they tend to use it relatively well.
Yeah, absolutely, and once again we can see Robo Santa, he's starting to shove in that bottom lane down there, and Dragon under 2 minutes away. It's definitely going to need to be a goal for Imperium to move down there, get that under control. And both teleports are going to be available. Wongs are swatted out by that pink ward there. At least he knows it's there. He can come back a little bit later on to deal with it. But wow, that Nautilus pumping out quite a bit of damage onto poor old Wongza there, who is, we've seen him go for a few questionable engages or even re-engages into team fights, so being lower on health is going to make that a little bit more hard. Now, as you can see, Pac-Man up in the top lane, going to be a time limit on what VGN can get done here. If they're going to go for something, they need to go for it now. Otherwise, they're just letting Pac-Man get a bit of free farm.
The good thing I see in Imperium's team composition is that they have incredible wave clear. You've got Lucian's ultimate, you've got Oriana's ball movements, Morgana. They're all really good at wave clearing. So when a situation like that happens, where University of Auckland are trying to push in and siege a turret, they're not going to have a fun time, especially when they've got the threat of, say, Pac-Man up in the top lane pushing out himself.
That's absolutely true. One good thing going for Imperium right now is that at least Snackadactyl hasn't gotten out of control. You've seen several tournament matches. Going to bring one of my favorite ones up. It was actually the Chiefs going up against, I believe it was not Besiktas, Ince actually, I think, where it was actually Swiffer getting absolutely out of control on his LeBlanc, and Swiffer's a bit of an exception for LeBlanc right now, but it definitely shows what can happen when you get a 15-for-1 LeBlanc. That's obviously not the case right now for Snackadactyl, and while he's not doing badly by any means, LeBlanc's a champion that you need to get very ahead on if you want to start affecting the game, especially as you move to later on. He didn't get a lot of roaming done to affect any other lane on the map, but the fact that he's not super ahead, and especially with the removal of DFG, he's going to find it quite hard to actually change the game right now, because he's not killing any tanks. He's got to get to the back line.
Good thing about LeBlanc, though, her ultimate is an exact replica of her previous movement. Obviously, we all know Mimic. So she does have the ability to get into the backline, but if she does that, she has nothing left. She can't really do much damage at all, even to a backliner.
Absolutely true. And, both teams actually picking up Righteous Glory, so, almost nullifying each other out because you see one team engage, you pop your own Righteous Glory, you can get on out of there. But one thing it's going to give to both teams is pick potential, You see someone a little bit overextended, perhaps maybe that Aurelia in the top lane there, Imperium. You can throw out the Righteous Glory, catch up to that lone team member, pick him, and then move into the next fight with a nice advantage. Bark, once again, this guy's been caught out a few times, but actually playing it pretty safely there. Knew he had his team to back him up. And once again, VGN going to be moving down to that bottom lane while the top laners both go for the battle up there. And interestingly enough, Pac-Man's got the more reliable cancel on a teleport, but there is the potential for RoboSanta to be able to cancel a teleport too. But the Shockwave!
Shockwave catching both Kappa and Liberty. Nothing doing, a teleport coming in from Aurelia, but a cancel there. So, Maokai is actually... Where did Maokai go?
He ended up in the bottom lane, and this is actually pretty huge because Aurelia was able to save the cooldown on his teleport, and Pac-Man, he's just got to wander on back up there, so it does mean both top laners aren't going to be able to join this fight very, very quickly. But you can see RoboSanta, he's working down this turret pretty quickly, but once again, like I said, Pac-Man, he's a brick wall on that Maokai, is able to halt any kind of split push, and as I say that, RoboSanta's hacking away at that turret, and there it goes down, so it looks like basically that teleport cancel, brilliant move by RoboSanta, in fact, that actually got them the tower, but a fight in the bottom lane.
Wongza actually getting caught by Nautilus and getting pummeled by that Lucian ultimate, a beautiful Janna ult, but I'm not sure what purpose it served. Actually, LeBlanc managing to wipe out Morgana, which is an interesting note there. Janna is getting ridiculous. Oh, the flash movements there. So brilliantly done by Bluehawk on Lucian there. Nautilus on incredibly low health. So a 1 for 3, I believe, all in all. Could have been a 1 for 4, but Kappa lives.
Yeah, I'm fairly surprised it actually turned out that way because Imperium went into that without the Shockwave. It's now back available, so if they do manage to catch out RoboSanta here, they will have that. But essentially, I feel like that was the squishies coming out from VGN, moving it a little bit too close to Imperium and chasing Bluehawk a little bit. Their front line disappeared, they had no one to protect them, and Asian basically ran rampant. Now this is a risky Baron right here. It's already dropped down to half health, but RoboSanta is terrifying. He could definitely come in here and start messing things up, and I think that's exactly what's going to happen.
Asian actually going down to Zac. Yeah, that was... Wow. They actually managed to pull that off with quite a plum. 1,500 HP left. Oh no, this is going to be bad. LeBlanc, if he sees it, yep, pops down the Lucian. Bye-bye Lucian. Zac, hopefully he has his passive. He doesn't, actually. Maokai is going to have to flash out of that. But they managed to get the Baron through all that. I didn't see them get it because I was too focused on whatever the hell was happening. Pac-Man might drop here, potentially.
He might be not. I lied. Yeah. It's not going to be fine.
LeBlanc and Graves doing a lot of damage there.
So, like I said right from the start of that Baron call, that was a risky Baron, and the fact that Asian had a Shockwave up definitely salvaged it, and it obviously worked out because they got the Baron. They did lose out in the trade of 3 for 2, but moving in, Baron is a massive amount of gold for your team, and that's not even mentioning the buff that while they only have it on 2 of them. You only need one person to buff up those minions, so if Siege is on the minds of Imperium, they are going to be able to do it, but at this stage in the game, I don't think either team is really equipped right now to challenge the enemy right underneath one of their own towers. Where the real fight's going to happen is going to be that dragon in just under a minute. Both top laners will have their teleport soon. RoboSanta going to have his in a few seconds, obviously because he cancelled it. He's going to get it a little bit sooner. But by the time Dragon's up, Pac-Man is going to have access to his as well. But you can already see the map is just painted red around that Baron. Ward control, ward dominance by VGN is going to make it very, very difficult for Imperium to move in. And you can already see they're being spotted out by the wards, and they may get collapsed on right here as T-Rex in a bit of trouble.
Oh, wow! Just gets absolutely blown up by LeBlanc here. A nice shockwave catching 4 members here. Bark very low, but unfortunately the ulti coming out from Janna wasn't enough to be able to save.
Yeah,
save
and
face.
you know, I say a good shockwave can change a lot of fights. That was not one of them, unfortunately. Wasn't even able to salvage it. Kappa taking a fair amount of damage, but Imperium need to be really careful about this because getting locked up by Kappa while his team collapses on you, I'm not sure even Pac-Man could survive that far away from the turret. You know, a few steps, but that's quite far away when you're locked up by a Nautilus. This Dragon's going to be completely open for VGN to just go ahead and take. So moving them up to
vision control there.
Yeah, moving them up to the third buff is going to allow them to collapse on Imperium a whole lot better, allow Robo Santa to jump onto that backline a whole lot easier, and you can already see, you know, it's all about the positioning on the map, you know, not during team fights, but before them right now. And as you can see, you know, Imperium walking almost into traps right now for VGN, and it's just basically their vision control is keeping VGN that far ahead right now. You know, it's only a 3,000 gold difference. The Baron definitely shortened that gap a whole lot. But, you know, 2 dragon buffs as well on top of that. It's, you know, the gold value of that is just so much more that, you know, VGN, they are fairly ahead right now. And Imperium are going to have to pull out all the stops to really contest it. And it's going to come down to that ward control. They've got to start clearing out all those wards in their own jungle. I mean, have a look at it. There's so many red little dots down there. And you can see T-Rex, he's getting onto it, but and we'll eventually clear all of it out.
Hopefully. I believe he's used everything that he's got except for one pink ward. Just quickly, I want to point out, and I've been wanting to say this for a while, but haven't really had the chance. Do you remember when Nautilus engaged in the bot lane, back when both towers were up, and it was a re-engage at low health?
Was that when Wongza went back in and just died?
Yeah.
Yes, I remember that quite clear. I'm going to remind him about it after the game, in fact. But we may have a bit of action. Might not get to talk about that just yet. No, both teams going to back off. So what were you going to bring up about that?
Nautilus's cell division was literally half a second from coming off cooldown when he died. So he timed it a bit off, but otherwise it would have been a fantastic re-engage.
Okay, so that's a little bit less funny to make fun of Wongza for. And that ward's going to have complete vision of him with that elastic slingshot, and doesn't even turn around to, you know, contest Bark actually clearing that ward out down there. Now, again, a time limit on Imperium right now. They've got Robo Santa breathing down the neck of that bottom lane turret, so they've got to move in right now. They do have Pac-Man moving in to defend. In fact, actually forced to use his teleport to get there, and Robo Santa's just going to walk away. He knows he can't contest it. However, they may be able to collapse on him just here, but they don't really have the time to kill Robo Santa before the rest of the team. Whoa, Asian gets blown up there, but does survive the explosion. He is, while he's low on health, he is able to stay nearby with that shockwave, but VGN know that he has to recall, so they're going to make their move right now. They're moving on this turret. Pac-Man doesn't have the tools needed to take down Robo Santa before the turret gets blown up. Is forced to flash to get away from there, but both teams, they've arrived back in. But the end story is that top lane turret, in fact, turrets just all across the map right now are slowly going down for Imperium. Their time is running out. They are holding out to the late game where, you know, I would have predicted that they'd have a little bit of a better time, but they've got to get the team fights right. They're only going to have a better late game if they pull off the shockwaves, they pull off the soul shackles, and they get brilliant engages by Wongza. It's going to be all about that ball delivery system right there by Wongza.
Can see a massive minion wave actually in the top lane, pushing in against Snackadactyl. Snackadactyl LeBlanc, not really a fantastic wave clearer, but she can still, if she does it right, can clear quite a few at one time. But
I mean,
can't
LeBlanc's
do it
fairly
sort of consistently.
With the distortion, it's good enough to clear waves. The only problem with it is that if you're under a tower trying to defend against the enemy pushing in against your turret, it's not a safe wave clear. But, you know, big waves pushed up against a tower in a side lane, Snackadactyl can handle that. He can handle it absolutely fine. Cooldown on Mimic, not exactly high, especially once he hits that level 16, which is not going to be too far away. And, you know, while I've said that he may have had a few problems trying to blow people up later on in the game, especially with the removal of DFG, the fact that he's able to find the squishies very often for Imperium. You know, they've been walking around their jungle, and with the vision control, Snackadactyl is able to sneak in, get an assassinate, and then get out fairly easily. So, you know, he's definitely pulling off what LeBlanc can do later on in the game very, very well. But Imperium needs to up their vision control game, and, you know, around the key point of this Baron right now, you're going to need to start doing something as it's going down.
I can feel that both teams are tiptoeing around each other trying to stop this happening, but Snackadactyl actually being dropped really, really quickly. Zach's ultimate coming out here. This team fight is messy. Catholic getting dropped really, really, really low here. Robo Santa trying to get out with his... Nah, but he won't get there, unfortunately. And perhaps neither will Bark. No, Bark will get dropped down. And of course, that means... Whoa!
Oh, what a pause!
That is scary. Snackadactyl this is a prime pause. Like, if I was Snackadactyl, I'd be planning every second, up to probably every third of a second of what I'm going to be doing after the pause comes off.
Yeah, okay, so let's talk about the ridiculous situation right now. Unfortunately for Snackadactyl, the surprise element's a little bit gone, and, you know, gotta feel bad for him there, but, you know, reality being what it is, you know, it's not really Imperium's fault. Obviously, being a surprise, they didn't expect it coming. But hopefully Wongza does fix his mouse so the pause can end. But, however, what is Snackadactyl going to do? His plan is obviously to blow someone up. He got a bit of AoE damage down. Asian's going to be, to put it crudely, pooing his pants a little bit right now. But Snackadactyl... I feel like he's probably just going to distort out. He actually used Flash to get in there, though, so he didn't actually have that option. Even without the pause, I feel like he would have just got blown up anyway. He wasn't in range to. He didn't connect the distortion onto Asian, and that would have been enough time for Imperium to turn around and blow him up. But importantly, I want to talk about the team fight that happened just before. The big thing is that we saw Snackadactyl. He was actually trying to zone out Imperium a little bit, delay them, but not exactly the right champion to do that, as you've got Pac-Man and Wongza coming right in. You're gonna have to ignore them first. Was waiting for the squishies, but Blue Hawk came in and just, with his passive, and I imagine both of them crit, managed to drop Snackadactyl right down to a few bars of health. So Snackadactyl was almost a non-component in that fight. And then Robo Santa, you know, he looked incredibly dangerous on Asian, and Asian was holding onto that shockwave for the longest time. You could tell he was looking for a good one to win the team fight. He was forced to use it on Robo Santa to get him off. But it ended up working out because they were able to, once they were able to deal with Robo Santa, the rest of the team weren't really able to do much. Snackadactyl obviously not able to move into the fight on that low health, and Liberty, no way he was getting near any of the enemy team after he saw what Blue Hawk did to Snackadactyl. So, that's clearly why Imperium were able to take out that team fight. But here comes the Dragon contest actually, Pac-Man moving in. This could be dangerous.
Pac-Man is incredibly tanky and can actually take it, but no, it goes over to Kaffer and his team representing Auckland. This is a nasty team fight though, and that Baron really, really helped them here. What Imperium need to do now is push for objectives, and when I say objectives, I mean turrets. They can take them at will right now.
Yeah, and Robo Santa in a trouble here too.
Robo Santa is incredibly tanky. T-Rex can't really do much against that. Dropped very, very low there actually. Pac-Man managing to avoid a lot of damage, but here's that mid lane siege.
Yeah, at the same time though, Robo Santa chose to stay in the bottom lane, which basically gave up this inhibitor over to Imperium. He thought he could get a little bit of work done, maybe even get a kill, maybe a 1-for-1. Wasn't able to get that, so the risk assessment, not quite the best there. We'll have to recall and deal with the fact that now VGN are losing an inhibitor. And like I said, you know, Imperium, they are able to come back from losses, and they've actually taken the lead with the gold here. Taking out 2 Barons is really going to swing it in your favor there. However, being 3 Dragons behind, they definitely need to start getting on top of that, because a 5th Dragon can absolutely change the story for VGN. If they get 1 more Dragon, they will be able to start turning team fights a lot more easily into their favor. You know, they've had a lot of favorable team fights, but it's going to leave a lot of room for error. And, give them a lot of boosts in every other area of the map. They're going to be able to clear minions, clear towers, move a lot faster. So getting that 5th dragon is going to give them the tools that they need to take out essentially the win, or at least deal with this inhibitor being down. Whereas Imperium, they just need to sit nice and cozy, make sure they've got wards all down that river, make sure no dragons are going to come out for VGN for the rest of this game, and they should be nice and cozy.
Baron, surprisingly, didn't last as long as I thought it would on Imperium. And the game is still incredibly close. Like, it's closer now than it was before. And I find it incredibly interesting how Imperium have managed to turn that, what seems like, in potentially professional eyes, a complete loss of a game, into, hang on, 360, we're going to pull this out of our ass, and now we're going to take an inhib and 2 turrets.
Yeah, and they're also moving on that bottom lane turret as well. Going to be incredibly hard to defend right now as Liberty's not quite available. So that VGN turret is going to go down. Pac-Man, while he's tanky, I'm not sure if he can get out of this one. RoboSanta, very good at pursuing down a single target. But I think Pac-Man's going to be fine, but the fight's happening. Not quite. Oh, maybe it is. Let's go.
Asian caught out by a nice hook from Nautilus. Whoa, that damage from... Whoa, that was incredible. Both Janna and Nautilus getting dropped there.
Yeah, and that was just the shockwave right there. Asian pulling out a brilliant ultimate right there. This inhibitor is going to be soon to follow. They've got super minions in the base, and RoboSanta is going to be forced to teleport back to Imperium, choose to keep going on to the Nexus turrets. It's going to be a 4v3. Oh no, actually Pac-Man's managed to teleport up. It's 5v3. Imperium may have the win here.
I believe they will. An exhaust being dropped down, of course. Zat's passive being popped out here. 2 turrets down now. RoboSanta getting focused very hard, of course. That is probably what they want. Liberty being dropped here. Yeah, this is what we call in my town GG. Blue Hawk is actually looking for a kill on LeBlanc and may die here.
Got to get up those fantasy OCC stats, right? But it is going to be Imperium taking out the win after what I've got to say is going to be, despite being only 42 minutes long, quite a tough game for them to take out. And I feel like it's going to be one of the harder games for them today, but they do show that they're able to pull out all the stops, come back from behind, and take out a victory. So they will move on to the next round, and if I bring up the challenge bracket for myself, I believe they're going to be going up against an AUT team who were originally against Unitech, who were a no-show, so they did get a bye. So, sorry, let me just bring it up for myself. Yep, it is going to be AUT. Is that AUT team? Imperium going to be moving on to face them, and it looks like... we'll talk about the results from the other matches as well, because they probably didn't take as long as that match. We do have Victoria University taking out a win against Fitabitus from MDS. And in match D, University of Auckland's friends down there, the Hawks, they take out a win against Forzoju from AUT as well. So 2 more matches up in the winners bracket. It's going to be, is that AUT against Imperium? And then... okay, hold on. I'm going to try and say this team name. HKC. I think that's what they're going for. HKC going up against the University of Auckland's Hawks. And then there are going to be some loser bracket matches, which VGN.GIGA, they're going to be moving down, and they actually have a bye, of course, because of the Unitech no-show. But there'll be... the other loser bracket match is going to be Fitabitus against Forzoju. So we'll be back pretty shortly, guys. We'll find out which match we're going to be casting and try and get some more OCC New Zealand qualifier action coming on. So don't go anywhere, guys. We'll be back very shortly.